What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the channel. My name is Rock Soldier, and today we're going to be continuing our 21 Pilots journey through some of their old music. We've been working our way through the Blurryface album, and today we're going to be checking out Ride off of the Blurryface album, the third track off the album. I believe the second to release before the actual album came out as a full. I believe Stressed Out came out first. So I'm super excited to check out this song, guys. We're going to hop right into it. Let's get it.
Wanna stay in the sun where I find I know it's hard sometimes. Pieces of peace in the sun's peace of mind. I know it's hard sometimes. Yeah, I think about the end just way too much, but it's fun to fantasize on my enemies who wouldn't wish who I was. But it's fun to fantasize.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, Ride is a banger of a song, right? But I've never really taken the time to break down the lyrics of this song. Kind of just always kind of passed as like a catchy tune. And as for any serious or heavy 21 Pilots fan, we know that that is never the case. And it's just crazy, like how, like almost like poetic these this verse is, right? I just want to stay in the sun where I find pieces of peace in the sun's peace of mind. And I feel like, that's just saying that he finds kind of peace in the glimmers of the sun sometimes, right? It provides pieces of peace. In the sun, there is peace of mind from the storm, from the confusion, from self-doubt. And then he goes on to say, yeah, I think about the end just way too much, but it's fun to fantasize. The end is coming for everybody. We all know that, and you probably shouldn't spend too much time dwelling on that. But Tyler's saying, it is fun to fantasize sometimes. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Heavy Dirty Soul, where he says, death inspires me like a dog does a rabbit. And I feel like he's almost kind of saying that he uses that time where he is kind of dwelling on the end, so to speak, to kind of motivate him a little bit. And he goes, on my enemies who wouldn't wish who I was, but it's fun to fantasize. And in this line, he's kind of basically saying that like he wouldn't kind of really wish his position on anybody else, what he has to go through. He wouldn't wish this on anybody else, right? It's hard enough for him to deal with. He knows the burdens of it, and he wouldn't wish that on anybody else. But he's also saying it is nice to fantasize some bad things happening to your enemies, right? Just a little bit. And that's just Tyler being honest, and I respect it. And I think we all maybe do that to some extent. Somebody who's done you wrong, somebody who's hurt you, or whatever it be. I mean, we fantasize about something of equal measure being done unto them. But even then, Tyler's saying, I wouldn't wish that on them, but it's nice to think of sometimes,
Fantasize on my enemies who wouldn't wish who I was, but it's fun to fantasize. I'm falling, so I'm taking my time on my ride. I'm falling, so I'm taking my time on my ride.
So there's two things I want to say here. First off, I'll start with the chorus. Is that I really enjoyed the chorus because it's pretty simple and it's kind of straightforward. And when you really think about the first verse, the chorus makes a lot of sense, right? He's basically saying that I'm falling, and basically kind of saying like I'm going down and we're all going to end at some point, right? Kind of like what he says in the verse. And so since, you know, we all are going to die one day, I'm going to take my time on my ride being kind of a symbolic way of saying his life. You know, just like on every ride, there's ups and downs, and same thing with life. So he was saying that he's going to take his time, and kind of try to enjoy life while he can, right? And then the other thing I want to say is kind of completely unrelated to the chorus in a bit, but it's the effect of the light and darkness they've used in the music video so far. Specifically, you know, kind of going back to the very first part of the first verse where he says, you know, I just want to stay in the sun sometimes, where I find these pieces of peace in the sun. There's peace of mind. And I like how they use the exposure of the sun here right as he goes into, so I'm taking my time on my ride, right? Like, we like really gets into it vocally, kind of almost like just kind of like a nice symbolic way of just like reassuring that through the music video. And then you kind of also see though the use of the dark a little bit, right? Especially when he's going through the first verse there, the second part specifically, and even the first part of the chorus. You know, I'm falling, and you know, I don't want to. I think about the end way too much, but it's fun to fantasize, and you know, I wouldn't wish this on my enemies, but it's still fun to fantasize. You know, it's dark through all those, right? So I kind of like the symbolic meaning just in the difference of light in this video.
Taking my time on my ride. I die for you, that's easy to say. We have a list of people that we would take. A bullet for them, a bullet for you, a bullet for everybody in this room. But they don't seem to see many bullets coming through. See many bullets coming through. Metaphorically, I'm the man, but literally, I don't know what I do. I'd live for you, and that's hard to do. Even harder to say when you know it's not true. Even harder to write when you know that tonight there were people back home and try talking to you, but then you ignore them still. All these questions, they're falling like, who would you live for? Who would you die for? And would you ever kill? Oh, oh, oh.
I just want to say I am so glad we are doing this, taking this little trip through some of their older music, man, because the amount of times I've heard this song and just not even like come close to realizing what its actual meaning is, what it's actually talking about, is insane. Like, I will never see this song in the same light as I do right now, or as I do right now. You know, like, I will never see the song the same way. I will never listen to it the same way, man. This second verse might be the most real thing I have ever heard from 21 Pilots, and I've heard pretty much all their music at one point or another. This verse right here is fucking insane. So he goes on to say, I die for you. Yeah, that's an easy thing to say. You know, we all have a list of people that we would take, a bullet for them, a bullet for you. And basically saying we all have a list of people that we would consider taking a bullet for, that we would die for, right? We all, not necessarily like you know, an actual list like on this piece of paper or something like that, right? Like, but you know, we all know who that is. Generally, it's family, it's people you're close to. You know, he's basically saying that. So he goes on to say, you know, we all have a list of people that we would take a bullet for, that we'd say we'd take a bullet for, and that's an easiest thing to do, is to say that we'd take a bullet for somebody, right? And metaphorically, I'm the man. Metaphorically, if I was to metaphorically take a bullet for you, I'm the man, right? That's an easy thing to do. Metaphorically, take a bullet for you. I can sacrifice some things for myself, to help you out. Metaphorically taking a bullet for you, right? But literally, I don't know what I would do. If the situation ever actually arose where he would have to take a bullet for somebody, he doesn't know how he would react. And most of us probably don't, right? I mean, most of us have never been in that kind of situation. And then he goes on to say, I'd live for you, and that's hard to do, even though we know it's not true. And basically saying that it's harder to live for someone rather than it is to die for someone, right? Because when you die for someone, yes, it can be an act of love, especially if you jump in front of a bullet for someone, right? But it's kind of like a one-off thing, right? Like, you take a bullet for somebody, you're dead. But how about living for somebody, right? You got to spend your entire life living for that person, doing things to help them succeed, and sacrificing things in your actual life, literally, for these people that you claim you would take a bullet for. So he's basically saying, you know, how about living for someone, right, instead of dying for somebody? Could you live for someone? Because that's harder to do than to die for someone, right? To like truly live for someone. And I love the pure like contemplation on that line alone. Like that line, you could think about just forever, right? So you know, I digress a little bit. You know, we'll continue on with the rest of the verse. And he goes on to say, it's even harder to write when you know that there are people back home who try talking to you, but you ignore them still, right? Where there are people who tried to help you, people who tried to live for you, but you ignored them. So, you know, it becomes a hard thing to do. And I also think what he's getting at is saying that if you can't live for yourself, how are you supposed to live for others, right? So Tyler's basically saying that you have to want to be able to live for yourself, and that can obviously relate to some of the mental things that 21 Pilots likes to explore, and can also just be like a very literal thing, you know, in terms of like a relationship with somebody else. You know, how do you expect to live for someone else when you're not even sure that you can live for yourself, right? Obviously, it's a big question. It's a tough one, but as he goes on to say here at the end, you know, all these questions, they're for real. These are real, serious questions. You know, who would you live for? Who would you die for? And would you ever kill? Would you kill for somebody? Would you die for somebody? Would you live for somebody? These are all tough, real questions, and that's why I think this verse is probably one of the most real things I've ever heard from 21 Pilots. Not that they don't spit real facts on every track they do. This one just hits different, you know?
Tonight there were people back home who tried talking to you, but then you ignored them still. All these questions, they're for real, like who would you live for, who would you die for, and would you ever kill? I'm falling, so I'm taking my time on my ride. I'm falling, so I'm taking my time on my ride. Taking my time on my ride.
One thing I want to say real quick about the light exposure again too is that I also like how it's like very overexposed in this shot, right? And I don't know if they just did that in the editing or if they did that at you on set. If they did that on set, I feel bad for Tyler and Josh because that light must have been something else just beaming into your eyes trying to film a music video. But I like the overexposure here, right? Because it kind of also just kind of reinforces that idea of life being a ride, right? You know, like when it's bright, when it's high, it's really bright. You're really high up, right? And when it's low, it's really low. It's really dark. And I also just really kind of feel like there's also like a symbolic meaning with the light too, that kind of has like a nod towards the dark side like of the lyrics a little bit, in terms of like, you know, you see when they're there and it's all light out and stuff, you know, kind of like brushing their eyes like because it's so bright, it's so overexposed, and kind of saying how that can kind of be a deterrent, right? Like when there's peace, it's almost like too much peace. And Tyler's talked about this too in other times, I believe, where it's like when things are good, you almost expect them to become bad at some point, right? And that can kind of be a deterrent to make things good a little bit, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does.
I've been thinking too much. 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 Help me. I've been thinking too much. I've been thinking too much. I've been thinking too much. Help me. I've been thinking too much. I've been thinking too much. I've been thinking too much. I'm falling, so I'm taking my time on my ride. I'm falling, so I'm taking my time.
Chills, man, every time.
Taking my time on my ride. I'm falling, so I'm taking my time on my ride. I'm falling, so I'm taking my time on my. I've been thinking too much. Help me. I've been thinking too much. Help me. I've been thinking too much. I've been thinking too much.
I actually really like this part of the song, right? Because it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple, but like until you actually think about it, it makes a lot more sense, right? I mean, he just repeats the lines, "I've been thinking too much. Help me," right? And I think that basically kind of relates back to Tyler admitting that he's his own worst enemy, right? His own self-doubt, which kind of ties into the whole theme of blurry face and the whole Dima concept, right, as a whole. But kind of basically saying that, you know, he's his own worst enemy, right? He knows he shouldn't be so hard on himself. He knows he shouldn't have his doubts in himself. But he is. He's been thinking too much. I mean, it's literally what I got tattooed on my arm. Sometimes to stay alive, you got to kill your mind, right? Which is not exactly what he's saying here, but a little bit, right? Help would help him calm his mind, right? You know, the peace of the sun will help him calm the mind, help calm the storm that is confusion and uncertainty and doubt. You know, so it's very simple, but I think it has like a huge impact for what it is.
Help me. I've been thinking too much. I've been thinking too much. I've been thinking too much. Help me. I've been thinking too much. I've been thinking too much. I've been thinking too much. Help me.
All right, so that was Ride by 21 Pilots, and I know this video is a lot longer than what we normally do, man. There was a lot here that I was not completely ready for, and like I said, man, I will never ever hear this song the same way that I used to, as I did just now. I mean, like, truly breaking down the lyrics and stuff, man, and really thinking about it, especially with a group as talented as 21 Pilots, man, is just a whole nother feeling, right? It's like, it's almost like reinvigorated the song for me completely. So I mean, overall, man, I really enjoyed the song, and hopefully everything I said made sense. Hopefully I didn't ramble and try to, you know, confuse you guys too much, man, because that was not my intention if I did, so I apologize if I did. But hopefully you guys enjoyed, man, and if you did, please make sure to leave a like, hit that sub button, hit that bell, know we're dropping the next one. So I got for you guys for now. It's your boy Rock Soldier. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night, and even better tomorrow. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. All right, guys? Peace.